Well, you may remember a couple of months ago, about more than that, we went through the whole arguments of what businesses were saying about labeling. Now, why is labeling once again coming up again? Why are we talking about labeling now and what's going on? Well, you may remember, of course, we had what were going to be two separate labels, one for EU and one for not for EU, essentially. And we've talked about this, I don't know how many countless times. Companies, manufacturers, anything like that, they do not want to run two production lines essentially of the same products, just with two separate labels. It would cost hundreds of millions of pounds just to have production lines to do specifically that one thing. And that would be a huge increase in costs to manufacturing, to label companies, etc. The cost would balloon. And the industries, the food processors companies, all these people were saying, what are you doing? This is insane. You are going to increase costs fundamentally, But of course, remember, we had a government previously, well, we don't anymore. We had a previous government who was like, we don't really care. We're not interested in listening to what businesses and industries have had to say. But now it turns out we do have a new government that is interested in listening to what businesses, industries, and experts have to say on this. And guess what they've been saying? Don't do this. It's completely wrong-footed to do. So guess what we've seen? These plans for the labeling for not for EU for meat and dairy products has now been postponed indefinitely pending a review. So we've got yet another reprieve on this. What will end up happening in this area, who knows? But they'll probably have to do something about this. What exactly they're going to have to do, who knows? But we'll see what happens. But before we do go getting into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. There are links down below with the Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. This comes from The Guardian. The title of the UK's Not for EU Meat and Dairy Labelling Plan Postponed Indefinitely. So the government plans to force food manufacturers to put not for the EU labels on all meat and dairy products sold across Britain next month have been indefinitely postponed after warnings that the scheme would cause chaos for producers and suppliers. Bear in mind, this is not new. This being told or telling the government that this scheme is going to cause chaos is nothing new. We've been covering this. We've been covering all the different industry bodies, the Food and Drink Federation, saying if you do this, it's going to balloon the costs for everything. So what are you doing? So in a way, this is but a short reprieve into this, but having a review into this and what's going on here, again, we'll see what happens, but this is the type of stuff that does and need to be looked at again, and I am glad that we've had a government that's actually listened to industry here and said, oh, maybe we shouldn't actually do this because, all the industries and bodies are telling us not to do this. It's nice to have a government that actually listens for once. So instead, the government will review the policy, which was devised under the previous Conservative administration, and legislation to now implement the changes have, of course, yet to be brought in. The Food and Drink Federation has estimated that the cost to the industry of meeting these new labelling requirements would be up to £250 million a year, and warned that it would increase the price of food and products for shoppers. As part of the Windsor Framework agreed with the EU last year, all meat and dairy products sent from Britain to be sold in Northern Ireland have, since October 2023, have had to carry a not for EU label. But The measure designed to prevent goods bypassing EU controls by being sold in the Republic of Ireland, which does not have a hard border with the customs checks on goods coming from Northern Ireland. The labelling was, of course, due to be extended to all meat and dairy products sold in Britain from October, as part of the Safeguarding the Union deal with the Democratic Unionist Party that was agreed back in January. Fruit and vegetables, fish, and composite food products such as pizza were intended to be labelled by July of 2025. So the previous government had said that these labels would not be needed to ensure that no inverse arises from businesses to avoid placing goods on the Northern Ireland market. And those, of course, in Northern Ireland have the very same access to goods in the rest of the UK. A consultation was now running during February and March, but the results were never published, and businesses have now been left in the dark about whether the October plan would remain. Jeez. The government running a plan and a consultation on this, and then not publishing the results, leaving businesses in the complete lurch about what was going to happen on this. Imagine my shock. imagine my shock on this. Some trade bodies even criticized the consultation, saying that the government had already decided on the implementation and that the process was now a glorified impact assessment. A letter from this month from the Provisional Trade Federation, which represents food producers, to the Environmental Secretary, Steve Reed. Anyway, right, where were we? Yes, so a letter seen this month from the Provisional Trade Federation, which represents food producers, to the Environmental Secretary, Steve Reed, said that a lack of clarity was now extremely unsatisfactory and had left the industry in complete limbo. What have we been talking about for the past couple of years when it has come to these businesses? They've got no idea what's going on. Changes are happening, which they are told are happening, and then they've got no idea what it is they're exactly meant to do or even change. It is said that this uncertainty has now created a situation where some retailers were already requiring suppliers to now reformat packaging to meet the October deadline, resulting now in added costs, while others had not made any changes owing now to the uncertainty. A letter, which was also signed by several other bodies, including the National Farmers Union, Dairy UK, and the Food and Drink Association, urged the government to abandon the plan or at least put in place a 6-month delay to help businesses prepare. The letter said, "We would strongly urge you to draw a line under this poorly handled chapter and make the earliest possible announcement to that effect." Well, looks like this potentially might be happening, that they are drawing a line under this. A spokesperson for the Department for Food, Environmental and Rural Affairs said that ministers are now carefully considering the evidence provided in a recent not-for-EU labelling consultation. We are committed to taking all the necessary steps to protect the UK internal market and are continuing to now engage with businesses to ensure the smooth flow of goods to Northern Ireland. Judith Brains, the chief executive of Dairy UK, said that she welcomed the announcement and that that making this requirement would now no longer need to be rolled out in October. The initiative had gone ahead with now new labels and required by a pack on by one on the 1st of October. It would have resulted in chaos for the dairy industry and it added now significant and unnecessary costs and huge admin burden to other businesses. The main concerns for businesses is that sell into the UK and the EU is that the upheaval to production these changes will create will now mean they have to run at least 2 separate production lines for both regions. Bear in mind, businesses do not want to do that. Having to run 2 production lines. We've talked about this countless times. Businesses do not want to have 2 production lines, one for the UK, one for the EU. They do not want to have to do that. That is an added huge cost to them. They do not want to have to run. So we'll see what happens on this. But I hope they're going to draw a line underneath this. And remember, the Democratic Unionist Party, as far as they were using this as the big wedge issue, We'll see if they react to this. We'll see if they start causing trouble in Northern Ireland again. Who knows? Who knows on this one? But yeah, fun times once again for labeling. But as always, let me know what you think down below. Click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.